Hockey is like one of those sports where you can take with you anywhere. You can do anything that you want with it.
Growing up in Mississippi, Reagan Rust had a dream bigger than her zip code, but chasing it meant leaving home, fighting to prove she belonged in a sport that didn't expect her, and battling depression so dark she nearly walked away from it all. That pain became her power. From NCAA Division I history maker to Bean Pot Championship, pro hockey player, and now mentor and mental health advocate, Reagan has turned her struggles into a playbook for resilience, confidence, and joy. Today, she's helping athletes and anyone chasing an unlikely dream find their strength on and off the ice. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Let's dive into today's show. Well, as I said, I am super excited today. We have Reagan Rust, one of the premier female hockey players, and excited to dive into this conversation. Welcome to the show, Reagan.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're going to spend a lot of time on your what you're doing now and what you're up to, helping young athletes, et cetera. But before we dive into that, can you share your background? Our listeners really find the journey, especially the entrepreneurial one, fascinating, and it always a different winding path. So how did you get to where you are today? Just a high level overview, if you will.
High level. So originally from Mississippi, which is definitely not a hockey market. I know it might have been a little bit in the intro and everything, but the journey from there, only one rink in my entire state, moving all across the country, across the world to play hockey, ended up playing at the Division I level for two different universities, first at RIT, then at Boston University for my last 2 years. And then all throughout my time while playing, I was constantly mentoring young athletes, not just female athletes, but also male athletes, anybody that kind of needed help along their journey, because obviously it could be very unique for each person. So that was kind of how I got started in my entrepreneurial spirit. I've been working since I was 14, 15 years old. And entrepreneurship, especially on my mom's side, my grandmother owned a factory in LA back in the day. And then my dad's great grandfather owned car dealerships. And so I guess a little bit of their spirit kind of came into me. And then now it's kind of led me to wanting to help the next generation of athletes and anybody that wants to be a hockey player overall. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So it sounds like it was in your genes, coming from both sides of the family, and really started setting in at an early age, at the age of 14.
Yep. Definitely was. But hockey is one of those sports where you can take with you anywhere. You can do anything that you want with it. It's all about the connections that you make over the time. And I think that having lived in 15 different places, that's kind of what happened.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, you mentioned it earlier that you're from Mississippi, which is really a non-traditional hockey location. So how did your love of the game come about? Where did that come from?
One of my mom's best friends back in the day. This was when I was 4 years old, 5 years old. She was working with him and they had season tickets. Their company had season tickets to the Memphis River Kings games, which, like I said before, was the only rink within, I don't know, probably 3-4 hours of our house. And so they gave us those tickets for one night. My mom, my sister, myself, and my aunt, we all went to the game. And that was our first time ever being exposed to hockey. And we fell in love almost instantly. And so we kept going back. I ended up joining their rec league that they started the next year with my sister. And they told us there was going to be a lot of girls, but it was literally just us two and another girl and 30 boys. And then from there, we just started traveling lots and lots of miles.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have had to put on a lot of miles, considering there was only one rink in the state and it was several hours away. So, were most of the weekends playing outside of the borders of Mississippi, really?
Yeah, so after 5 years of playing in Mississippi, then we went to Nashville, which was 3 hours north. And then a couple years of playing there, then we started driving 12 hours to Pittsburgh, 12 hours back, practically every other weekend.
Wow. So really, really dedicated. You must have loved it, and your parents must have realized that you loved it so much that they were willing to invest that time, effort, and energy for you.
Oh yeah, and didn't help. My sister's AAA team was in St. Louis, so we were constantly splitting paths, going with different families, and I mean, somehow we made it work. But it was definitely a lot of miles.
If they only ever knew what those tickets were really going to do, would they have gone to the game, right? the River
Right.
Kings game. That thing just started off a snowball, it seems like.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we want to change it for the world. No one in my
Right.
family.
Yeah, I agree. Hockey's a great sport, great community, great people. So how did you end up turning this into and getting recruited to play college hockey? Again, coming from, an unknown location, not a lot of rinks, probably not a lot of exposure, definitely early on, right? Probably got more exposure as you started playing in those other areas, Nashville, Pittsburgh, et cetera. But what did that process look like for you going up the ranks and then ultimately getting recruited to play college hockey? How did that happen?
Well, I think like what the roster spreadsheets look like that the college coaches get to see. It was a little bit of a challenge at times because they're like, okay, South Haven, Mississippi, like there's no way like somebody from there could play hockey at the D3, D1 level. And so there was definitely a little bit of doubt at the very beginning of it, but I got super fortunate to play for Penn's Elite because at the time we ended up committing, I think it was probably 10 or 15 players in a span of 1 to 2 years that went to the D1 level on like the men's side and the women's side. But I also went to 5 different high schools. So I don't know if like that was like a red flag for some of those college coaches, but I literally just moved around for hockey. But the way I got recruited was I was building my junior and senior year in Pittsburgh with a family. So we didn't drive the 12 hours. And the one summer tournament, I'm sure you've been to it as well, the Beantown tournament. That's like one of the biggest recruiting tournaments of the year. I ended up going to that tournament with my team. And for the first time kind of in my life, I had switched from forward to defense because my coach just asked if anybody wanted to play defense. And I was like, I mean, I'll do whatever. It gives me more playing time. Like I'll go back. And I went back there, and that first game that I played defense, I got recruited to play D1 hockey. And that was going into my senior year. And I didn't have any other offers before that. So It was my one and only offer. And I went to RIT to start.
And did you end up playing defense throughout from that point on?
Yep. I ended up playing the rest of the year defense because he was like, all right, I'm recruiting you to be an offensive defenseman. But they really wanted me as a utility player to be able to go back and forth between forward and defense. So I did that at both schools, but primarily I played a lot of defense.
And then at the college level, what was your position?
I started out as a forward, actually, for the first 7 games, and I was on the 4th line. And then I think somebody might have gone down on the defensive side, and you're like, Reagan, now's your time. Because I told him, I was like, Coach, whenever you need somebody on the back end, just let me know. I'll go back there. Because I knew like I was way better at defense. And as soon as that happened, I was first line D for the rest of the next 2 years. And actually, the rest of my college career, I was first line defensive pair. So,
yeah, because I would imagine from a mindset standpoint, it's not easy going back and forth between the positions, quite regularly. I mean, my older son was in a similar fashion, probably from the age of 14, 15 up. He was used wherever. So sometimes some games he'd be forward, some days D. And I know he talked about the challenges sometimes of getting like your mindset right while you're playing the game, because sometimes you're in that defensive mode, but then you kind of forget about it when you have the puck on your stick and you kind of like, oh, wait a minute. How did that work for you? Did you find that to be a challenge or an opportunity?
Definitely an opportunity, because for me, not getting any other D1 offer besides that one, I was like, I'm just going to make whatever work. And I think one of the big things I was focused on was being a team player. And I was like, okay, wherever you need me, like I'll play. I don't care how many minutes it is. I'm always going to be a good teammate. And so I kept kind of that mindset. Definitely was a little bit of a challenge, especially like going into the pros, because I did it in the pros as well, forward and defense, which is pretty funny. Like one game I'd be playing center for the first line. The next game I'd be second line defensive pair, and then move up to the first line defensive pair. And it was just, I think whenever you're going so much back and forth and studying the game so much, it kind of starts to flow. You really can't think. That's a big piece.
Yeah, thinking's not good in any position, really, right? When you're
Yeah.
playing the game, it's just got to be second nature, and you got to be prepared to do whatever. So,
Mhm.
what was it like for you? As far as the transition from playing to then coaching. What did that look like for you?
I started coaching in 10th grade. So I was pretty used to going back and forth between coaching and then playing. Because there'd be, like, for example, I'm from Mississippi, so, a little bit of a lower income situation. And a lot of the times, in order to get my camps paid for, I would work the younger kids' camp beforehand. So
Mm.
I would coach them and then go jump on the ice for my games and then coach them. So I've always been kind of going back and forth. And even when I was in Sweden, I was coaching 14U AAA boys. I coached AAA girls hockey in California, AAA in Minnesota. And then finally, whenever I decided to officially retire, I got the opportunity to go coach at B. So, it was pretty much a seamless transition for me at that point.
Interesting. And did you get more enjoyment out of playing or coaching?
I think at different, there's like peaks and valleys to each side of it, but I definitely loved my time playing. And at the pro level, for the women's side, when I was playing a couple years back before this new league happened, it was a grind because you're almost working full time and trying to play and train and do all those things. And so by the end of my 4 years playing pro, I was just so tired of doing all the things. And I just like, it's time. And I'm like, I was very happy to retire and then pick up coaching. And so now I like find a different sort of joy from coaching. Cause like I see some of my players, like 2 of them just got drafted in the PWHL. Actually, more than 2 of them that I've coached over the years got drafted. And I was like, this is such an insane feeling. I feel like a sense of accomplishment seeing them go on and like live out their dreams too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And just even having a small part in that is, very rewarding. So let's talk about women's hockey for a minute, because you talk about like when you would, play pro, it was challenging because you basically had to have a full-time job, right, for income. And then you also had a full-time job almost with regard to playing. And it's a little bit different now with the league and the growth. How do you think the growth of women's sports, if you want to speak specifically about hockey, but I think growth in women's sports period is on the rise significantly. How do you think that'll impact the generation that's coming on the pike now?
It's already making waves. Even just in the girls that I've been coaching in camps over the summer, they tell me like, oh yeah, now like we can dream about going and playing in the PWHL. And I'm like, that's kind of all they've ever known. And then when we tell them stories, they're like, wait, you guys didn't have a league? We're like, no, we did not have a league like this. This is what we've been building for so long. So it's cool to be able to watch them be able to live out those dreams in real time and like have something they can actually go after that they can truly make a living out of. And even you can see it in women's basketball right now. They're fighting for a revenue share, and they tried to offer them like 200,000 base salary, and they're like, no, like we want revenue share. So you can see like they know the numbers, and I think it's over like $2 billion that's getting invested into the WNBA, and then even like bars, for example, sports bars. I think there's been an increase. It went from like 2 a couple of years ago to now there's over like 40 or 50 just dedicated to women's sports. So that's all across the country, which is pretty cool. I know that's a small number right now, but women's only sports bars is pretty sweet.
Yeah, the growth is pretty special, and it's pretty interesting to watch as well. Do you think in hockey in particular, do you see the path for a woman hockey player or female hockey player changing, meaning from youth to college and then before pros? Do you see some kind of junior hockey element similar to the men's side developing over time and on the women's side as well? Or you think that the model they have now is going to pretty much stick in terms of college, and then if you have the skill set, go pro?
It'll be interesting because, especially working in the D1 space over the past 2 years, seeing how much the NCAA has changed those rules for the athletes, even just like financially, I think that it's still going to be, it's not that it's up in the air, but like how much players get paid, if they get paid at all, or if like, I don't think that they'll change the college landscape anytime
Okay.
soon. But I think that they may start adding other layers. So like instead of going in straight at, some of the girls are coming in at 17 years old, 18 years old. I think they might make a little bit of a gap. So there's already U22 in Canada. Most girls will try to go to college before then, but you could go up to 22 and then start your 4 years and just graduate by 26. But I think most players right now are still around the 17 to 19 age range. But I think like a 20-year-old going to college would be way easier, way better. You'd be more mature, you'd be faster, stronger, you'd have a little bit more of like that development in the prefrontal cortex. So it definitely helps.
Imagine a relationship where financial conversations don't feel stressful, but actually bring you joy. We've designed a guide to help you have positive, meaningful money conversations with your partner. This isn't just another budgeting tool, it's a roadmap for building trust and connection. So if you're ready to start a joyful money journey with your partner, go to Midland.us/couplesjoy and download your free guide. Transform your financial future together starting today. I want to take a little bit of a shift now to, mindset a little bit, right? And Jarrell, who works with me at Midland Financial, he was a Division I football player. And he and I often talk about how the athlete mindset never really goes away, right? I haven't played competitive, like real competitive hockey since college, but I still have that same mindset, routine, wanting to succeed and win, right? How do you channel your competitive drive these days as, somebody who's not having that competition that you had been used to for so long?
I mean, I still find ways to get it. I'll play pro roller now. So pro roller women's hockey, that's only in the summer times though. So I get a little bit of that, and you can tell that I'm still extremely competitive because I'm throwing people into the boards in roller hockey. But I found it in a lot of other ways too. Like last year, I ended up raising money to run the New York City Marathon. So I ran that for Billie Jean King's foundation. And training for that was 4 months. Like I was extremely dedicated, didn't drink, didn't eat unhealthy. Like I trained, ran all my miles, did my workouts, did everything while working full time and doing that stuff. But also like I find it too, like with the girls, like sometimes I'll get competitive with them in the games and everything, but there'd be times where I'd be running a skills session at the very end of it. Like I'm grading myself critically, and I'm like, I will go ask them for feedback. Like, hey, what did you think about this? Where do you think it went maybe a little bit like you guys didn't understand what I was saying, or you weren't hearing what I was saying? Where do you think we could have fixed that for next time? And so I find myself being very competitive with myself still and trying to be the best, even if it's not maybe playing hockey anymore.
Right. So you have to find other outlets to get that competitive juice that you've been used to, right? That's pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm about to start doing my D1 workouts again because I want to see how hard it is now at my age. Not that I'm that old, but like I can definitely feel my body not as hot as it used to be.
Yeah, that's it. It happens. It's just nature, it's going to happen no matter what. Talking about roller hockey for a second, because I know that there's two sides to this coin. Some people feel it's a very high correlation. Some people feel like you can get where you need to be with it. Some people don't. Do you think that, for those that may struggle to find the ice time, may not have the financial ability to spend on ice, do you feel like roller is a great alternative to sharpening and honing your skills to becoming a better hockey player?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can become a better hockey player. Like, doesn't even matter what age you are, but as long as you're playing other sports, you're going to be sharpening your skills no matter what. And that's what I've been preaching to the 15-year-olds that are trying to specialize in hockey. I'm like, don't do it just yet. I mean, you need time to be able to be more agile. So like playing basketball or playing volleyball, like being able to do jumps, stuff along those lines, it makes a big difference in your development. Even at my age, like if I were to go play like pickleball, like that's sharpening my skills, that's sharpening my reaction time, stuff along those lines. I think it's really important to go play other sports, not even just roller hockey or ball hockey or anything related to hockey.
Yeah, I agree. I think the teams have to be a little bit more forgiving in that area and make time so that the kids and the athletes have the ability to do that. And a lot of times they don't. They preach that they want them doing multi-sports for all the things you mentioned because they're all benefits, but a lot of times they just don't have the time or the bandwidth to be able to do that. So I think you got to, plan out and carve out that time for yourself and find room for that, because you'll sharpen and make yourself a better athlete, better player, better person overall, right? So
yeah, 100%.
Good point. Yeah. So I want to take another shift for a second, to mental health. And that's something you've been a huge advocate for. And as you may or may not know, I sat on the national board of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention for about 15 years, lost my brother-in-law to suicide, and do a lot of fundraising efforts around mental health. As you know, I'm taking part in, I don't know when this is going to come out, but over Labor Day weekend, I'm taking part in a 24-hour hockey game where we're raising money for AFSP through Hockey Helps, their 24-hour game. But, more importantly for you, you've been a huge advocate for mental health. And I thank you for that, because it's, with and because of people like you sharing your stories and your struggles, that others are going to feel comfortable sharing theirs and finding and seeking the help or assistance they need. Why did you share your struggle with depression and anxiety with the public? What were you looking to accomplish? And, how do you think it's helped?
There's a lot of reasons why I decided to do it. I think back to when I was 14 years old. This is before the big boom of social media. There was Facebook, there was Instagram just starting out, but there was nobody really putting out those resources at that time. And it was still a little bit of taboo. But as I was going throughout my journey with mental health throughout high school and throughout college, I ended up opening up to my teammates. I ended up opening up to my coaches and letting more people know about what's going on, especially because I knew I wasn't the only one dealing with it. I just knew that I was the only one willing to talk about it, because coming from an Asian family, we don't really talk about our feelings. So a lot of the time I was just struggling by myself until I was able to get a therapist. And so it was really important for me, even before I got a following on social media, to start talking about it. And so I think once I did get that following, that I felt even more, I don't want to say pressure, because pressure is a privilege, but I felt the need to push something out there, just because this was still before Simone Biles with with her anxiety going on at the Olympics. Nobody was still putting that out there. And so I started talking about it, and I learned that it was going to be way bigger than me. There was a lot of things that I was putting out into the internet that people were I was getting hundreds and hundreds of messages from other people, men, women, children, asking for help. And I realized that if we don't continue to talk about it, even if it feels a little bit uncomfortable now, we don't know how many people we might lose. And when I was in college, my junior year, I ended up losing one of my friends to suicide. He was somebody I played hockey with my entire life in Mississippi. And then he was probably one of the coolest people I'd ever met. Rock climbed, was really, really, really good at every single sport. He was tall, good looking. You would think that he had it all. And I think that really opened my eyes my junior year. And I was okay, this is where I need to start speaking out. And this is why I need to speak out. Because maybe if he had seen me talk about it, maybe he would have reached out before he got to that point. And so, yeah, after dealing with it so many different years and so many different phases of my life, I just think it's really important to talk about it.
And what was his name?
His name was Michael.
Yeah, I'm sorry about Michael, but I'm sure he's proud of what you've done thus far, sharing and reaching out and touching so many other people in a positive way. And him being part of the impetus of that, I think, is pretty special. Have you found that other players that you've either coached, played with, or known, or, have mentored, do you feel because you've been open and honest and forthcoming about your own struggles that they feel, much more comfortable coming to you and talking to you about their struggles? And whereas had they not known you, maybe they wouldn't have had that outlet?
Yeah. I think not even just at the D1 level, but the young players that I've worked with, because I try to be preventative too. And I know talking to 10, 11, 12-year-olds before they even experience these things is really important. And I've had players that have come back to me, like reached out about, hey, like, where'd you get these resources? Or like, how do I go about having a conversation with my parents about this? And I think that has been a really big piece for me. So a lot of my players definitely come back. And I think it just like helps build that connection a lot more too, because they're like, oh, you're not perfect. And at BU, which was pretty cool, we were all very open about going to therapy. All of us coaches, all of our staff. One of our staff members was actually a psychologist too. So wow. He was a goalie coach and psychologist. And we gave our girls like no question asked days. So that was like one day a semester. If you're super overwhelmed, you get a no questions asked day. You're like, hey, coach, I'm going to take my day. And that just means no practice, nothing. You can go to class if you want, or you can take the entire day off and just reset, do whatever you need to do. So finding like those little ways to implement it has been really important as well.
What a great thing. I think that's a great idea. And I think more teams should implement that. I have not heard of that, but that's amazing. And I give you guys a lot of credit for implementing that. Becoming a mental health advocate has allowed you to touch, many lives and raise much needed funds and awareness. And I know that you're going to be taking part in an event, and I'm looking away just so I get this all right, on October 15th called Do You Still Believe in Miracles Gala? And it's going to be at the Lighthouse at Chelsea Piers. And, that came together because I was introduced to a gentleman, Ron Tomasini, who was a former Harvard hockey coach, and he's on the board of this organization, The Ranch. And basically it was started after the death of Mark Pavlich, and a bunch of ex-NHLers and now current NHLers even have come together to create a space for people who are having mental health struggles, whether they're athletes or former military or veterans, et cetera. And you're going to be involved in that event. Can you share, why that's something like this is important to you, and what you're planning on sharing or, with the event itself?
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons it's important to me, not only has mental health affected me, it's affected family members, it's affected friends of mine. And I'm really excited to be a part of it, because hockey, as you know, is a very put a face on and just show up and play and do whatever you need to do to get through the day. But I think at the root of it, a lot of players are struggling silently. And I think that the more that we talk about it, the better it'll be for everybody in the long run. So I'm really excited to go. We'll be on the panel with a few of the NHLers, and we'll just be able to share our stories and I guess ways that hockey has maybe helped us and mental health has affected us and what we can do moving forward. So I'm really excited for that.
And I think you've seen more players, specifically in the NHL over the last couple of years, come out and, take time off for struggles and challenges. And I think, like you sharing, that's important for young folks to see, right? Not everything goes exactly how you plan or laid out. And everybody is vulnerable to trials and tribulations along the way, right?
Yeah, definitely. It'll affect anybody. It doesn't matter your economic status. It doesn't matter anything, really. How many things you've accomplished, it can still find you.
Agreed. So listen, I want to leave a tidbit for our, striving hockey players out there, or just high school athletes in general, right? What is your best advice for high school athletes and their families as they're, on this journey of, playing whatever their sport of choice is in high school, and then looking to move on to college or even professionally?
Something that I would tell myself as a young athlete, like I would go back and say, it's all going to work out. I know that there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things that you're always trying to work through, whether that's what camp should I go to, what prep school should I go to, what school, like what team, all those things. And I think that it puts a lot of stress on the kid, and it makes it seem as if it's more of a job than it is supposed to be fun, because at the end of the day, sports are fun. And that's the reason you started playing. That's the reason you should continue playing. And so to make sure to keep it light, even if it's taking a couple days off here and there, taking a vacation in the summertime, not doing 14 showcases in a row, like find space to be a kid and to enjoy the little things in life, because the days go by slow, but the years so fast. And so if you don't stop and look around, you might miss it. And I think like that's the beautiful part about playing sports.
Yeah, great advice. And we talked to my younger son who's on this journey, and we say all the time, and he's kind of adopted it now. He probably says it to us more than we say it to him. And he's like, whatever happened, whatever the challenge is, he's like, you know what, this is probably meant to be. He goes, I may not know right now what it's meant to do or why it's happening, but hopefully somewhere down the line I'll understand, and it'll put it in perspective as to why whatever is happening in that moment, right? And I think that's kind of what you're alluding to, right? We're all on this path, and we're on our own path, and it's not right or wrong. It's our path.
Yep. And at the end of the day, all roads are going to lead to beer league. So it doesn't really matter how you get there.
I say that all the time, right? It doesn't matter how you get there. Beer league is around the corner for us all. So, yeah. So thank you for sharing that. And, this has been a joyful episode. It's been such a joy sharing your path and talking about your challenges and bringing light and hope to others. And we're all about joy on the Midland Money Mindset. And our listeners are always waiting for our final question. And that is, what did you do today, Reagan, that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I know this is super small, but this is how I've learned to live life. Morning coffee. It's the one thing that I look forward to every single day, no matter if it's a good day, bad day, anything in between. But it gets me in the right mindset, gets me going. It's the start of my routine for every single day, and it brings me a little bit of joy.
There you go. So I got to ask then, what's your coffee of choice?
This one is a new spot we just tried. But this is a iced mocha with oat milk. It's actually really good. So probably be going back there.
Reagan, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes. But if people want to learn more about you, want to see what you're up to, learn about this event that you're going to be on the panel on October 15th, the Do You Still Believe in Miracles? What's the easiest and best place for them to go to learn more about you and connect with you?
Definitely social media. So on Instagram, ray.rust, and then on TikTok, Reagan Rust, or if you want to email me. I mean, I get emails from people all the time, so you're welcome to email me at reagan@reaganrust.com too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's been a pleasure. Brought me a lot of joy speaking with you this morning. Keep enjoying that cup of coffee, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you for pouring your heart into this conversation. You've taken us from the rinks of Mississippi, where no one imagined a Division I women's hockey player could come from. Your courage, your joy, and your resilience remind us all that the toughest battles can lead to the most powerful victories. Reagan Rust and all she is up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find her can be found in the show notes.
The opinions voiced in the Midland Money Mindset Show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Guests on the Midland Money Mindset Show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.